Guys, welcome back to the channel. So this week we're going to change up our wine the bag a little bit, and we're going to focus on a different tour.
Yes, we're going Champions Tour.
We're going Champions Tour. Yep. We kind of thought that it would be appropriate when there was a major championship on to divert our attention to that tour, and whether that be LPGA, PGA, or Champions Tour, we think that probably been the most important tournament of the week.
It was your idea. I think it's a great one. Yeah,
you know, really and there was a couple of requests for us to do that, and you know, it's always interesting to talk about Miguel Ángel Jiménez anyway.
He's interesting to watch, listen to, and everything else, and played great. Like, he had a really solid week of golf. That
is the one thing that he is solid.
He is very, very steady.
He is a very, very solid golfer. The mechanic, as he's kind of known. He's just a super fun guy. I mean, from his warm up routines to his huge cigars and his red wine tastes and all that sort of stuff, his love of Ferraris and stuff. He's got to be one of the most colourful characters in the game.
He is, but I think he's, like, in some ways relatable because he just likes stuff that a lot of people like. Likes to drink a little bit, likes to smoke a cigar and play golf. And
definitely. Yeah. Now we love Miguel, and I'm sure you guys do as well. And he's been a real loyal, you know, staff player
going back forever. No? Like, all the old footage I've seen of him, he's got a Ping hat on.
I can barely remember. I don't think I can remember Miguel playing any other brand, and you guys may kind of do some digging and find out he has, but he has been a Ping player forever, and he was, you know, 14 clubs through the bag this week.
Top to bottom, right?
Top to bottom. So he's an interesting one, and when we looked at his bag setup, we saw some really interesting things.
There's a couple of ones that I even went like, whoa, what's that about? So
let's start, you know, up top with the driver. So he's playing Ping G400, a huge favourite of ours.
Very good shot, very good driver.
We love that driver. He's playing the 9-degree head. He plays it slightly open, and he's actually playing Ping's proprietary tour shaft,
which is cool to see.
It's a really good shaft. It really is. It's an excellent shaft out there as a stock option for the stronger players out there. He plays it a little bit longer as well, doesn't he?
So 46 1/4 that's long.
Yep, and I think that's something that, you know, senior golfers will try to do to, you know, maybe maintain the distance that you hit it off the tee. You know, I saw in the shot tracer some of his numbers through the week. He was still posting ball speeds around 164.
It's really good.
So
really good.
I mean, I remember really being fortunate enough when I worked at Turnberry in Scotland. I was very fortunate to work with Colin Montgomery, and he would come in and test drivers with me. And at the time, he was a Yonex staff player.
I remember that,
and he would come in and he would just be moaning all the time that he's losing so much yardage, and he was. I mean, his ball speed when he would hit it good would be 154, 155. This was 2011.
Right.
So, you know, this was
not that long ago, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, and for him, you know, he was still on the main tour at that point. He wasn't even a Champions Tour player. Right. But just to get, you know, relative kind of perspective as to where Miguel is at 164 ball speed, when someone like Monty was in the mid 150s,
so 10 mile an hour.
He's really kept that you know, ball speed high, and he's never been someone that's been notoriously long by any means. No. But you know, I think he's managed to give himself some longevity with his equipment. I know, you know, he's not exactly a specimen of fitness by any means.
I don't think fitness is his second hobby.
But I think he does work a lot in his mobility.
His stretching.
If you look at his swing, his range of motion has not decreased. His arc length is basically what it was when he was on the main tour.
Swing looks basically the same. He makes a nice big turn.
Exactly the same. Yeah, so he's got that in the driver, the 9-degree, playing it a little bit longer, set a little bit open. Right.
So would you say, just quickly, he obviously strikes it really consistently.
Yes.
Because people will say longer shaft, probably less consistent strike, you'll end up losing distance. But for him, if he hammers it in the middle every time, he's got a little longer shaft, he probably picks up a couple miles an hour club head speed, and there you go. It's a no-brainer for him.
Absolutely. If you are someone who is super consistent with your delivery, with your strike point, those are the type of people that can take advantage of extra shaft length and extra leverage. So
people ask that all the time, though, because they come, a lot of clubs come 46-ish, right? Stock?
Yeah, 45.5 to 46 is now kind of stock.
So you'd say that it's probably a smaller section of the market that should actually consider a longer shaft. More than likely 45 is your number.
Exactly. And for people who struggle with consistency and strike point, like we've tested, advantageous to consider shorter.
Of course, you can go even lower.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where his bag gets a little interesting.
It does.
So Miguel, I certainly been very familiar with him in Europe. He is one of the best fairway wood players of all time. Miguel would fancy his chances putting it inside your 9-iron with a 5-wood or a 7-wood.
That's cool.
Absolutely, and he carries a 3 and a 5 and a 7.
Yep, and that's in the G400.
The G400, well. Yep. So he's playing that with the Aldila, the ATX Tour is a Tour Blue.
Okay.
75 X Flex, so the slightly softer tip profile in that one.
Yep.
So just a phenomenal fairway wood player. I never caught much of the tournament, but there was probably a highlight reel of
there must have been
fairway woods that he's hitting into longer holes, and
he's got the 7-wood in that as well. So that makes he's not going to be a hybrid guy because he hits the fairways so well.
That's
Why
right.
not?
Same sort of thing. You can tell by the way he's got all his woods set up. Whatever the stated loft is on the head, whether it be 9, I think he was 13 or so on his 13 and a half on his 3-wood.
Yep.
They're all open.
So he opens them and gets a bit less loft.
Exactly. So and he's obviously trying to create. He's a drawer of the ball. He likes to draw it a little bit. So he's obviously opening the head to try and get a little less curvature on it. But really interesting for him to go on a theme that we've been talking about. He values the fairway wood way more than the hybrid.
Yeah, so he's obviously tested both, and he's decided that this gives him a little bit better launch conditions, or probably maybe better through the turf for him, who knows?
Well, I would say for Miguel, looking at his swing characteristics, someone who swings the club on as flat a plane as he does, will always swing a fairway wood a little bit better than a hybrid.
Okay.
Right. So the length will dictate the playing, angle of that golf club.
Right.
So when you take a shorter hybrid, the shaft sits up a little bit more.
Of course.
So that's why some people, when we have the conversation about, maybe when the ball goes in the rough, what do you like to use? And they go, I really struggle with my fairway woods. It's because the club sits a little bit flatter on the angle.
Okay.
And then your angle of attack is much shallower. Because that hybrid is a little bit shorter, you can get steeper into it.
So you're interacting with less grass.
Exactly. So you can change your angle of attack based on the length and lie of the golf club.
That's cool.
So that's really suitable for Miguel's swing.
And nice shallow faces on these as well. Must make them nice to hit off the turf.
Yep. Yep. They are indeed. So that's his fairway woods. In the irons, he has the pink eye blades.
Yep.
He has 4 through to pitch and wedge in those.
Those guys here.
Yeah, really good iron.
Really nice.
Really nice. Kind of follows the design characteristic. We've talked a little bit about the eye blade and some of the other players. Remember when we done Bubba's Wine the Bag?
Yep.
He had the 2-iron, and we talked about the characteristics about it being a little bit quicker, the face being thinned out a little bit.
Ball speed wise.
So it really is in terms of a blade design, it's a very quick blade. Because of the way that face has actually been thinned out to retain ball speed.
It makes sense for him, again, trying to retain his distances as he gets a bit older.
As he gets a bit older.
Yeah, so it makes sense for him to go to that design versus, we were chatting before, whether he ever considered S55 was the smaller one?
The previous one. That
so he probably just gets a bit more distance out of this.
Yeah, exactly. So in those irons, he's using Nippon Modus 105 shafts.
So a lighter end of them?
Yeah, but he's using the X-Flex version.
Okay.
So that's, I think we touched on Andrew Landry's bag a few weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
And Landry had the exact same shaft. Maybe one that they get some good results with it. Ping and Landry also being a full Ping staffer, isn't he? So with that particular shaft, though, even though it's part of the Modus 105 range, as we saw on his one, the weight's actually about 115 grams.
Once it gets to X, it is actually 115,
exactly.
Which isn't that light.
Can be a little bit misleading at times in terms of the designation of 105 Modus when actually the weight's a bit heavier.
Because they progress.
The regular flex is closer to 105. The stiff flex is about 109, 110, and then the X flex is about 115. So that's one way in which they change the profile of the shaft, is they add more material, they get it to deflect less, they make it stiffer.
Gotcha.
Right, so one of the ways in which they do that.
Okay. And then into the wedges.
Into the wedges. So he has a 2-wedge setup, 52-60 on the Ping Glide 2.0s.
Bit unusual.
Yeah, but we've seen it a little bit in recent weeks.
You're right,
we talked to Webb Simpson last week, and his setup with driver, 3-wood, 5-wood, 2 hybrids, which sacrificed a wedge for him.
Exactly.
So, and he started his irons at 5-iron. So with that, he uses the standard sole on both of those particular wedges.
Is that this one here?
Yep, the SS.
So that it's got a little bit of kind of heel toe relief, but not crazy.
Yep, not a full wide sole, but certainly.
Hopefully, you guys can see that. Okay.
A fairly neutral sole design.
Gotcha.
Okay, and that comes in, the Ping Glide comes in the tour sole, comes in the standard sole, comes in the wide sole, and it comes in the eye sole as well, which is a kind of take on the old Ping eye design.
Oh, okay. Does it? I didn't know that.
So it's a little bit more forgiving on those.
And you've mentioned that this actually, you tend to get a bit more ball speed off glide wedges in your fittings. So it would make sense to kind of marry these two in a set.
I don't know if we can kind of show that a little bit, just the design cavity of the wedge.
I'll show a close-up.
Yeah, and the iron, they're very, very similar.
They are, yeah.
They're basically designed with the same functionality in mind, which is ball speed retention, even though you're going with a head that's, minimal offset and that type of thing, so with workability in mind. So that's definitely a feature that's in both of those particular clubs. Actually, they look very similar when you see them.
It's very nice how they've designed them to blend, and it makes sense. We've seen a lot of iBlade players using glides as a blended set.
We love that wedge, and I would really encourage people who are struggling to match in their wedges to their iron set, and they feel like the pitching wedge goes significantly further than their set or their other gap wedge they have in their set by whatever company. Look at the Ping Glide 2.0s, especially in a 50 degree, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how much that closes the gap between the gap wedge and the pitching wedge in your set.
And if you want to see an example of that high handicap wedge fitting
with Sam,
he ended up with the exact same ones, and he had the same problem. He was hitting his pitching wedge a certain distance, but then he got to his wedges and the gap was massive, and these kind of helped narrow that for him, so quite effective. And
then last but not least for Miguel, he's always had a really interesting selection of putters. He used to use the Ping Dock, which was the big kind of, looked like half a pizza.
It was massive.
Massive. Thing, right? It was absolutely huge. He's used smaller blades at times. Never been afraid to sort of try different styles.
Tinker around.
Yeah. Right now he's using a Sigma G Tine design, which is something similar to what we've been talking about tonight, with the kind of shape on the 2 prongs coming out on the toe and the heel, kind of like the Odyssey number 7.
It's 7, I think. Yeah, right?
Or the even roll ER5, quite similar.
So it's a popular way to get the weight back and towards the edges.
Yep, and we actually have we do very well with that Sigma G Tine putter in here. He uses one, so obviously Ping can. They can customize the way the toe hang is on the putter based on a straight back, straight through, or more of a slight arc, or more of a strong arc.
They do that as a standard offering?
Regardless of the head, they can actually bend into that particular putter so that the putter has X amount of hang, so that it really then will complement your
Because that's amazing, because you were just saying, based on someone's stroke, you can't you have to eliminate toe hang or face bounce for certain people. But if they like that head style, you're saying you could actually accomplish that. It's pretty crazy.
And one of the things with the Ping app, the putter app, it's really good that it will basically, if we put the cradle on and hit a few putts with it, it will tell you what type of arc putter you should be using.
It's really cool.
How much forward shaft lean you have, etc., etc.
So $25 clip is very valuable.
Really valuable for you guys just to learn a little bit more about your putting, and we really encourage you to go out and get and purchase that. You can pick it up at any golf store.
They're everywhere. They're on Amazon everywhere. And stuff too. Yeah, everywhere.
So I think that would be something to be really beneficial.
And if you did miss the live earlier, it should be up by now, the full recording. It's a long video, but there was a lot of interesting putter information. We haven't touched a lot on putters, and you've got a ton of knowledge that a lot of it I had no idea. So it's a good video. If anyone missed that, check that out for sure. It's a good one.
It was good. We certainly enjoyed doing that. We'd been excited to do that one for a while. So yeah, and we're going to continue to build on.
We got a little series kind of planned, and we're going to do that as well.
As we do with all these things, we try and kind of take the topics on further, mostly based on what you guys ask for, following the videos.
That's the beauty of it. Is we've done it with a couple things. With shafts, we did it with irons. Kind of did an intro video and said, okay, what do you think you want to see next? And we've just kind of done it as a series. Definitely. So it's ideal for us, and hopefully we're giving you guys what you want to see as well.
I think so. So for Miguel, last but not least, he uses a Strixon Z-Star golf ball.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
good ball. You like that one, right?
I love that golf ball.
I've been playing that lately as well.
Yep. So I've been on that on the Strixon golf ball for a few years. Do quite a lot of ball testing in here, and I do some on my own personally.
Yep.
I've found that ball to be as consistent as anything. I'm also a big fan of the TaylorMade golf ball.
Yeah, you've said that.
I really like that ball. I get great results with it in fittings and personally. But for me, durability, consistency, and wind conditions, I really like that Z-Star golf ball.
Slightly better price point too. Like if someone hasn't tried it, it's worth a shot. I really like it. Yeah. I used to play Pro V1s. I'm happy to play either at this point. I think that's a compliment to a ball. If it can equal or even surpass, I think for you it surpasses the Pro V.
Yeah, it does.
It's a compliment for someone to have achieved that.
Definitely. Guys, good stuff.
Let us know how you thought this went. I think it was cool to mix it up. I liked
your idea.
Something
a little different.
It was cool to mix it up.
We're coming into major season.
We got to do an LPGA one. We have to. Because people are really asking about it.
Well, we have to touch more because I think that's so relatable to the
I'll give you a good example. I was watching just the tail end of last week's LPGA, and I actually recognized a shaft. I think it was the MJ graphic design. Saw one of the ladies using that. And in that moment, I thought, okay, like that really does make sense for us to touch on those, because those swing speeds in the 140s, 150s, those are the shafts and club heads and configurations that people are going to be looking for the most part.
No, I think there's so much good stuff to be taken from the way the LPGA players set up their bags as well. So coming into major season, I think that you said there's maybe another major coming up for the seniors.
They're playing one right now. So they're playing the senior PGA. They play back to back.
Okay.
It's kind of weird, but they do, what was it, Regions or something last week as their first major. Okay. This is the senior PGA, so I don't think probably won't repeat. Maybe we'll try to do.
Maybe it depends if we'll maybe look at it and see if it's interesting enough.
See who it is.
There's a topic. Colonial this week in the PGA Tour.
Yes.
So we'll kind of see. We'll weigh that one up.
Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, let us know what you guys want. Yeah. That's a good idea.
If you want to go another one of these, if you liked it, we'll do it again.
Definitely. Okay, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.